Wow, what a day yesterday. From the opening to closing bells, non-stop news, headline making events, one after the other. The first event, the return of Shiri Bibas and her two sons, Kfir and Ariel, which Hamas choreographed as a celebration, replete with celebratory music, dances, performances by kids on stage, and the passing out of candy to the rest of Gaza's children in attendance. The coffins of the family members even had locks on them, which Hamas had sealed and handed over to the Red Cross without the keys. And before the coffins were pried open by Israel, they had to carefully be inspected by the bomb squad in order to make sure they weren't booby-trapped with explosives that would detonate when the coffins were finally opened. Then, as day turned into dusk, behold, Israel's forensic specialists determined that the coffin, presumably containing the remains of the mother Shiri, was rather filled with the remains of some anonymous Jane or John Doe, not Shiri. Now, this of course begs the question, what happened to the remains of Shiri Bibas? Why didn't Hamas return her body, which constitutes a gross violation of the American brokered ceasefire? Did they lose track of Shiri's whereabouts? Did her body bear signs and violations of abuses that Hamas would rather not come to light? Is she even dead? Where is Shiri Bibas? Then, as if this wasn't enough drama for a day, a major, and I mean major, terror attack was averted, wherein bombs were placed in 5 city buses programmed to go off at today's morning rush hour. Now, why didn't they? Because the terrorists evidently, mistakenly, set the timers of the bombs to detonate at a certain time p.m. rather than the intended a.m. morning rush hour time. Now listen, had all 5 buses exploded, it could have killed hundreds of people, making it the second worst terror attack in Israel's history, only being exceeded by the mega terror attack of October 7, 2023. Could there be more bitter irony in a day already filled with bitter irony? Yeah. It's believed that the terrorists who placed the bombs on the buses could have been Palestinian day laborers among the many that Israel agreed to take in each day from the West Bank. Now, to recall, the October 7 attacks were preceded by the reconnoitering or spying out of the kibbutzim by day laborers from Gaza, some who had worked on those kibbutzim for decades, even being regarded as extended family by several of the kibbutz households. Now, why in the world would Israel agree, especially in the aftermath of the October 7 attacks, to take Palestinian day laborers in from the West Bank each day? Well, the answer, if I recall correctly, is owing to the pressure that came from the Biden administration to do so, out of the Biden's administration's fear that the West Bank's rulers, the Palestinian Authority, would go bankrupt unless Palestinians from the West Bank were admitted by Israel each day to work as day laborers. Now, concerning this failed terror attack, I want to read a tweet from Amjad Taha, who I follow on X. He's a pro-Israel Muslim from the Gulf. Now, I know you're not going to believe this, but such people actually exist. I follow him and another guy named Loay Alshareef. Now, the latter of the two, by the way, taught himself biblical Hebrew before the Abraham Accords, and he speaks modern-day Hebrew flawlessly and beautifully, if I may add. Now, both these guys are well worth following for those of you that have X accounts, and I'll link their X accounts below in the extended description of this video. But anyway, back to the former of these two individuals, Amjad. Following this failed terror attack, he tweeted the following tweet on X. When God chooses to protect you, he bends time itself, turning AM into PM. Was it divine intervention or sheer hatred blinding them? Palestinian Islamist terrorists from the West Bank set their bomb for PM instead of AM. An attack meant to slaughter Israeli women and children during the morning rush hour, only to detonate in an empty parking lot. A mistake or a miracle? And to think Israel agreed to the Palestinian Authority's request to allow their workers into Tel Aviv. This is how some of them repaid that trust. Wow. Now, isn't that the truth on all fronts, both concerning the AM to PM era of the terrorists and Israel's foolishly admitting terrorist laborers from the West Bank? Well, like I said, yesterday did not lack drama or irony. I wanted to make another episode of our ongoing series, Making Sense of the End Times, yesterday, but my attention was commandeered, of course, by yesterday's events, whose aftermath I will again be closely following today. I'll try to get another installment of that series up sometime early next week. Well, that's it, everyone, for today's update. I'm off to make a cup of coffee. Yesterday, to unwind from all this news, I stayed up to watch the final game of the NHL's Four Nations face-off, in which the United States and Canada duked it out. Literally, actually, their first game together a few games ago in this series. There were 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game. So I definitely tuned into last night, not because I love the violence. Actually, ironically, I don't care for the violence in hockey. I used to play ice hockey myself. I love the game simply for its speed and its finesse. There's rarely a dull moment in the sport of ice hockey. And last night, Canada and the United States played again to take the crown of the series. And it was a close game. It was 2-2 going into the sudden death overtime, and in the last couple minutes, unfortunately, Canada scored and won the game, owing largely to Canada's goaltender, who made, for lack of a better word, otherworldly saves that kept Canada from being beat. America put pressure on the entire sudden death period, and this Canadian goalie just committed otherworldly save after otherworldly save, preserving them until the final couple minutes, in which the leading scorer of the league put one in the net, putting Canada ahead to win the series 3-2. So I went to bed late last night. I had to watch this hockey game, both because I love hockey, but also to help me unwind from a day of nonstop drama and news. And therefore, I'm a little tired, and it's time to go to make a cup of coffee. And I want to thank all of you who, for the last several weeks, have treated me to my cups of coffee. This one I'm drinking to you, although it can't be celebratory because the United States lost a close, well-fought, in every meaning of that word, series. Anyway, guys, I'll see you again at the beginning of next week with either an update or a new episode of Making Sense of the End Times. This is Steve, the tour guide, signing off, wishing you a safe, happy weekend. Bye-bye.